Hello, my fellow readers. This is Dark Symphony 777 with another fanfiction review. As always, a link to the story will be in the description below. Please like the video, subscribe to that channel, click on that bell for notifications, leave a comment in the comment section below on your thoughts of the story. And finally, this is my opinion. My opinion is not indicative of the world, so please respect that. So, the story I'm doing a review of today is Tangled Up in Green by Poet Heather 1. This is a Kim Possible fanfiction. And I'll be real with you. Um, I wasn't planning on reviewing this specific story. What happened was I wanted to review a Kigo fic that I really liked that involved Kim and Shigo hooking up, and then Shigo getting like cancer from her powers and sacrificing herself to save Kim and her family from a meteor. And I thought it was this story. And then when I read the story, I was like, oh, I mixed the stories. Well then, I'm gonna review the story anyway. So yeah, you read a lot of stories when you're like mixing them up for reviews and stuff. Uh, so this story, wow. Despite the fact I think this is like one of the first big Kigo fanfics on the side. I know Yogurt Frost, I believe, was writing stories around this time too. Uh, but this story, I think this story was also nominated for a Fanny, which is, for those of you who know, Fannies are basically Kim Possible fan fiction awards. Yeah, Kim Possible fanfics have their own awards. Yeah. But anyway, so let's just move on. What is the story about? Well, this story, for context, this story takes place after the events of the Kim Possible movie. And the reason it needs this context is one very specific part. Kim kicking Shigo into the phone tower on top of the Bueno Nacho headquarters. Yeah, that happened. So what happens is, at some time after the events of the movie, Draken comes up with an unspeakable, unforgivable evil plan to finally stop Kim Possible from letting him take over the world. Shigo wonders, well, what's the plan? Draken's response is to hand Shigo a joy buzzer. He said, just hit Kim, just hit her with this. It'll stop her. Trust me. How so? Trust me. Shigo goes along with it. It's like, oh, it's probably gonna be like fuck everything up. It's like it's Draken. He kind of messes everything up. So Draken and Shigo, they stage a crime. Basically, they just go somewhere that Kim can just easily get to, and they just pretend to start ransacking thing. Kim shows up, finding about the crime quotation marks in progress, and confronts them. Shigo fights Kim. Shigo hits Kim in the stomach with the joy buzzer, still thinking it's just not going to work, and finds out it is working. Shigo gets very, very curious. Like, Draken? Yes, Shigo. What did I do to her? It's like, I did something that she'll never, ever suspect. I have made her pregnant! Huh? Yes. So, basically, Draken goes to D and Amy, gets DNA from Shigo. It's not his kid, it's Shigo's kid. And has has D and Amy cook up a kind of spleen juice or whatever. It's never actually explained what causes the pregnancy, just that it was in the joy buzzer. That if whoever's hit with the joy buzzer, any female, induces pregnancy. Shigo gets massively pissed about this, thinking it's not only a violation of her rights because bodily autonomy. It's like you literally took my DNA without permission to pregnate someone, but also She thinks it's like a really, really slap in the face after the Attitudinator episode, where like I believe they were like forcibly chipped and were like brain more or less mind whitewash. I can't remember if that was like early season 1. I know the Attitudinator episode was like I think in the first season. I just can't remember what episode it was. But regardless, Shigo had enough. So she's like, I'm done with this. Goodbye, Draken. Wait, Shigo, where are you going? Shigo! Leaves Draken, quits him, goes to Middleton, and talks to Kim. Kim basically at this time finds out she's pregnant. Kim immediately thinks Shigo is in on the whole thing. It's like, no, I'm not. Draken basically did this without my knowledge. I didn't even know what the Joy Buzzer would do. And basically told Kim, it's like I'm willing. I want to take care of the kid. I want to be there for our child. Cue Kim and Shigo telling her parents, and then trying to like have a big dick energy contest where they constantly like, try to bluff the other into like surrendering. It's like you're not gonna leave. I'm not gonna leave. I'm not gonna leave you. What, you want to kick me out? No, I'm gonna. No, you're not gonna leave. And then ultimately, they both said, "All right, you're gonna get married. I'm gonna get married. All right, I'll marry you. Yeah, yeah. At the altar, it's like shit. She didn't fall for it. Yes, they end up getting married, and then basically afterwards, it's just a bunch of chapters of them just having to endure Kim's pregnancy, all while something is cooking in the back. A specific, the possibility of Draken or someone starting to stalk them is in the background, and that's literally the plot. I can't go into any in depth plot analysis because that's congratulations. The first 5 or so chapters is literally the entire plot. I don't want to go into like depth analysis of like, oh, what's the entire plot like every minute day. But with this, I think I can make an exception because by the time you reach chapter 6, congratulations, you got the whole plot. I do think that the plot is handled really well because ultimately there is something cooking up in the background. I don't want to talk about it until the very end because there's one part of the background plot that I really really don't like, and I have to bring that up at the end. But as far as plots go, it's a little bare. It's very very bare bones. Granted, it is bare bones with a very valid excuse because after they get married, it's basically just a bunch of random miscellaneous stuff because Kim starts getting it's like as the pregnancy goes along, she starts getting bigger and bigger, and so she starts getting limited in what she can do and how she behaves. So it's literally just a teen tracking pregnancy story. I guess you could say like Juno, kind of. I think I I think that works. Yeah, I think that works. Uh, so yeah, that's it with the plot. Wait, there is one thing. I bet you're wondering because you probably came here. Some of you are probably like watching each review as they come out, and you're thinking, wait a minute, didn't you criticize the same thing for Night of Salem? I said yes I did, but there is different contexts to that. The reason it works in this case is because you get the entire plot, like the entirety of what's going to happen in 5 chapters. And everything after those 5 chapters It's just a bunch of miscellaneous random stuff that just happens with minimal, with like next to no plot development, because we already got everything with the plot in the first 5 chapters. There's no need to regress something that's not even progressed, but actually completed beforehand. With Night of Salem, you get the first chapter that's just setting up the basic premise, and then it's just a bunch of random miscellaneous stuff with like no plot progressing until near the very end. Because you gotta shove in like more Salem being an idiot. So in that context, it's badly handled. In this context, it's actually handled pretty well. Characters. There are really only 2 characters. It's Kim and Shigo. And I think, granted, there are other characters like Ron, and then there's the bodyguard that Kim gets. After a certain point in the pregnancy, and especially after she gets attacked like halfway through the story, uh, director Betty basically gives Kim a bodyguard, and I can't remember what is her name. I completely forgot what her name is. What is it? What is it? Abigail. There it is. It's basically like a former Secret Service agent who works for Global Justice, and she befriends the Kim and Shigo, and then she basically asks near the end. She asks him to be their nanny. It's like, I'll be your nanny, so I can keep protecting you, and also I kind of like you. It's Abigail's the weakest character. Like that's kind of like the fact that she shows up halfway through the story, and she doesn't really do much. Like she really just doesn't. I'm sorry if you read the story and you like it and you like her character. I don't like her character. Ron, Kim, and Shigo, they're actually pretty fine. They're standard you can get in this context. There's not really a lot of character development on Kim's part. She does get of course the whole pregnancy of course is going to have character development, but in terms of like her character in its core, that doesn't change. She does get new circumstances, like she starts wondering maybe she should give up crime fighting to take care of the kid. She abandons that thought because she realizes she goes kind of there. But ultimately, like the character beats in her to Kim is very minor and doesn't really go anywhere because of the whole pregnancy aspect. So that's fine. Ron barely gets any character development too. Granted, he doesn't really show up as often as Abby, but he's there. He's fine. He's just unstoppable. He gets some advice from Shigo about I need to find love life. It's like, why don't you just take that ninja check? Genius. And of course, him and Yori hook up at the end. And then there's Shigo. I like Shigo. I really like Shigo. You love Shigo. I like Shigo. She radiates big titty goth energy. Because of course she does. I think her character is actually really well done. She starts out this very butch Tom, of course, the big titty goth GF energy sort of deal. Very butch. However, when she leaves Draken and starts to hooks up with Kim, she realizes I don't have to be this way anymore. I don't. Which means I don't have to be butch. And she kind of goes through like a sort of like pseudo transformation where she's like, I can just be a little girl. I can be a girly girl now. Huh. Kim, can I be a girly girl? It's like, why are you asking that? It's like, because I'm your wife, but I want to ask you. Okay. Like, okay. So of course, Shigo starts getting more girly clothes, and she starts becoming more feminine and stuff like that. And she still keeps that butch undertone. Like she still has that rough and tough angle. But she starts acting more like a actual wife, like a demure girl who still wants to who basically wants like the best of both worlds. Like I still want to be, the Shiga and love, but I want to showcase my girly side more often because I grew up not allowing my girly side to come out, but I really want to show my girly side off. I think she's fine. I think I think out of all the main characters, it's Shigo that kind of steals the show character wise. She has a solid character arc. She accepts responsibility for Draken's mistake. She actually starts becoming a good hero. You see like her thought processes as the story goes along. As she starts like adapting like Kim's attributes to herself and also her thought process on certain things. It's a really nice character arc, I think, and evolution of Shigo from rough and tumble goth girl to a somewhat mixture of butch and feminine is really well done. I don't have any complaints about that. Grammar wise, I do think there are one or two grammar errors here and there, but I think that's it. In terms of writing, it's it's as basic as you can get. Like, and this is something I want to bring up because okay, I'm gonna go to the page. I gotta show you this. Writer of published author. This person is a published author, and I'm not gonna criticize the author for this because this is just at the end of the day. I think this is literally a theory. It's not mean to disparage her or anything like that, but this story for an author has very, very basic writing, like very, very almost beginner writing. And my theory is because you could say, oh, well, it's probably her first fan fiction, but that doesn't bring up the point because she's a published author. So that leads my uh, that leads to my theory and the fact that this author was probably more used to writing short stories because the writing, if you actually look, it's very basic. Like it's not too deep or complicated. There's not any big twists and turns in the story except at the end with the reveal who the bad guy is. Uh and the thought process I think is very straightforward. There's no like big deep, like even if this is a romance, there's no tension involved. Like the only tension is in those 5 chapters of them bigging themselves up to think the other one is bluffing about the wedding, and then they get married, and then that's gone. So, so that is that. What I think this author is this was the author's first long form story, like the very like she's probably only used to like writing a stories that are like 1,000 or so words, and so probably had trouble trying to retrofit her writing style onto a long form story. I don't know if that's right or not. It's really ultimately a guess. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If I'm right, I'm right. I'm just gotta say it. I don't know for sure. It's just really, it's just really a guess. So, pacing wise, I think the story is paced perfectly. It really just tracks very key moments in Kim's pregnancy as she's growing and she's developing all the habits and stuff like that. I think it's paced really well. Like it's less than 200,000. It drags on just enough that you kind of understand what each chapter is kind of telling you, but it doesn't drag too long that it just gets boring, like Yogurt Frog, like the One in a Billion story that dragged on and on. Whew, that the story's really dragged on. Also, the fact that I think, a side note is, I think this story did kind of do like the whole the whole gay movement thing, because like the story took place like a time where gay marriage and stuff like that was still kind of frowned upon in America. And I think that was actually handled in this story much better than like the random racist stuff in Yogurt Frost story with Kim and Shigo's kids in that one. No, not Kim and Shigo's. Dr. Rector and Falsetto Jones kid, which is like which came really out of the blue and just honestly felt shoved in. But yeah, I think this story had pretty well all across the board, except for one moment. But before I get to that, would I recommend the story? I will say if you're a big Kigo fan, yeah, go ahead. I do think if you're just a casual reader, and I don't mean, like I said, I don't mean any well for this story. If you're just browsing just Kigo Fix, yeah, you can go out of your way to read this. It's very basic. I do personally think there are better Kigo Fix out there, but as a starting point for like if you want to get into Kigo as a whole, I think this is a great starting point. It doesn't there's nothing too complicated about the story. The characters are solid enough that they don't really require much depth to get behind. The plot is very simple. It's everything. There's no real twists and turns. It's very basic, is what I'm saying. And I there's no shame in having a basic story. Like I said, if you want a launching point to get into like the more deeper comprehensive Kigo fics, this is a great starting point. Like this is a great beginner Kigo fic. And I think that's what I think the story didn't mean to do that. I think that's what the story is. Like it's just a starting point to branch off into the more comprehensive, deeper, more thought provoking Kigo fics out there. Here's my thoughts. Favorite part. Yes, there is. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Can't remember. I can't remember. I cannot remember what chapter it is. I know it's near the end, right? Oh, here it is. Right here. So, my favorite part is this very hilarious moment at the end of chapter 45. For context, uh, Kim is very heavily pregnant at this time, and she's starting to get cravings and like all this stuff that pregnancy comes with. And she has a craving for nachos. Ron's very weird concoction that he made. And so one night, Kim and Shigo are sleeping in their house. Where Kim wakes up Shigo. It's like, Shigo. You can tell that Shigo's like, oh god, I don't know what it is. Yes, honey? What a nacho. Oh, god. It's closed. Give me a nacho. Ah! Fine. So we get a hilarious image as Shigo, I think like at 2 in the morning, sneaking out of her house, going to Bueno Nacho, breaking in. She's like, I really don't want to be here. I really, please, Betty, don't find me thinking I'm stealing from this place. Making a naco at like 2 in the morning by breaking into Bueno Nacho, leaving cash. It's like, no, if I'm doing this, I'm doing this legit. Here's some money. I made my naco. Goodbye. Goes back home with like I think like what? Let's see. No, yeah, she brought back the Nako. She like went back to the room, tried to give Kim the Nako. It's like, Kim, honey, yes, here's your Nako. I don't want Nakos. Emmy, it's 5 in the morning. Why would I want Nakos? And then Chigo just completely like, ah! It's such a random hilarious moment. Oh, because that's so true. I've heard tales of that happening. No, not 2 in the morning, 5 in the morning. It's happening at like 4 or 5 in the morning. It's actually pretty funny. It's a very funny moment. But okay. So back to here. What would I change? And the reason I there's not really anything I would change except for who the bad guy is. I will say this is going to be very, very heavy spoilers. So, if you don't want to if you haven't read the story, uh, just stop the video here and just go to the next review, which will be Days 2 Fix. But yeah, how do I say this? The spoiler is that okay, so throughout the story there is a very, very vague sense of like something happening in the background. It progresses very slowly, but but it starts when Shigo is buying jewelry because she wanted to get a proper wedding ring for Kim and herself to celebrate the wedding because the wedding was like a shotgun wedding sort of deal. Draken breaks into the store with some henchmen. Kim starts beating up Draken. Kim starts worrying because she thinks Shigo kind of like going back to evil, but then she discovers no, she's just stopping Draken, and she was just there to buy jewelry for Kim. But ever since that moment, there is moments where Shigo thinks like Draken like was stunned over the whole thing. Like, is he hunting us? Is he think? Because Draken goes completely off the grid. Like, apparently they find out that Draken just straight up disappeared, and that actually starts worrying Shigo. It's like, where's Draken? Because this isn't like Draken's deal. Because this whole thing is like he's very ostentatious. He's very showboaty. He's very egomaniacal. Him just randomly going quiet, and it's just a big red flag in Shigo's opinion. Because the last time he went quiet, the events of the movie happened, and the whole reason Draken got away with as much as he did in the movie was because his plan was so convoluted that even Shigo's like, "Oh, what's going on?" And even Draken's like even aware. It's like, "Yes, I have all these random stuff." It's like, okay, so but what's going on? Well, that's the thing. What thing? If you don't know what I'm up to, then Kim doesn't know. Yeah, exactly. So, so Shigo has actual experience with that. So Shigo throughout the entire story, she's just completely, utterly confused. Like, this is not what's going on with Draken. This is not what Draken would do. But then, while Shigo and Ron are on a mission, because at this point, Kim is like so pregnant she can't really go on missions anymore. Shigo, quotation marks, comes to the house and starts hanging out with Kim, and then Shigo tries to kill Kim. It turned out it's not a real Shigo; it's a clone using DNA from Camille Leon. Kim basically tries to protect her stomach area so that way she can prevent a miscarriage, and she fights off Camille Leon by killing her. It turned out it's a clone, and Kim had to end up in the hospital. But now Shigo's brain is on overdrive because this is something Draken definitely wouldn't do. But it's like, but this is something Draken would do. So she's like, so it's her Director and Wade, they're like all one, like they're like starting like massive searches, like where's Draken, and like every chapter or so, you get a constant reminder. It's like they're looking for Draken, they haven't found them yet. There's no power surges. It's just it makes no sense. And near the end, while they're hanging out with their Nana, they get hunted by not only the more clones, but also syntho drones and bebes, all products of Draken. And now everyone's just start mentally freaking out. It's like Draken's not this competent. The last time he was this competent, he took over Bueno Nacho. What the fuck is going on? Who he can't? And they're all starting to realize it can't really be Draken, can it? And there's this whole play on this like on the whole idea is like, is it Draken or is it not Draken? Near the end, Santos drones start invading Middleton High by disguising themselves as various students and stuff like that. Kim and Chigo immediately cotton on when they see Tara, one of the other cheerleaders, start to act suspiciously. So it's like, okay, it's a Syntho drone. We're getting out of here. Q, Abigail, Chigo, and Ron all trying to fight through Middleton High School to get Kim out of there into an emergency contact zone. However, the Syntho drones are prepared, and basically they disguise as the justice people to kidnap. They basically snatch Kim from as the EMC zone, and they get taken to a random Draken lair. So it's like, all right, it's Draken. It's something, and then it turns out the villain behind the whole thing is Bonnie Rockweiler. You can't make this shit up. Okay, so for context over why Bonnie did this. Early in the story, when Kim starts getting pregnant, when Kim's actually start, when I actually started to get sick again. When word of Kim's pregnancy starts reaching the school, Bonnie starts bullying her, basically acting like a stereotypical bully. Kim gets very frustrated, so she go kind of off the cuff, reckon things. Why don't you just record what she's saying? And they just go. It's like threaten her with like lawsuit if she pulls anything. Kim actually like, hold on, that may actually work. And so we actually get a moment where that exactly happened. Bonnie's like bullying Kim. Kim's trying not to want to assault Bonnie or say anything bad to her, while having like a record, like having her communicator like behind her back with recording everything. And she's like constantly telling me, it's like, okay, anything else you want to do? Anything else you want to say? And so once Kim kind of had it, once Bonnie had like was finished, she's like, all right, I recorded the whole thing. Say something again, I'll be getting a lawyer. And then that was the end of that. So I thought, oh, that's just a random thing. And that's basically Bonnie's whole motivation is that one moment. And it's like, oh, you bullied me back, so now I will turn into an evil supervillain by finding because she found a broken bebe, and the baby still find her a queen. And so now she's like, she got the baby to kidnap Draken and build all the Syntho drones. All because Kim recorded her bullying. I would have been happier if it was Draken. Now you see why I don't like that, because it's like everything was built on the idea that Draken may or may not be behind the whole thing. Bonnie being the villain just is really such a letdown, because Bonnie's not mentioned after Kim threatening her with a lawyer. She just straight up disappears from the story. And I thought, all right, you just wanted to get a neat little moment of Kim getting one over on a bully. That's fine. But to have that specific moment of just Kim just politely asking Bonnie, it's like, anything else you want to say? While and Bonnie bullying her while Kim's recording. That is such a horribly dumb way for like a villain motivation. If it was like a parody, like Bonnie was trying too hard, okay, I could kind of see something like treating Bonnie like the whole Doofenshmirtz thing. But I don't think Doofenshmirtz existed at this time. I think we're like 1 year too late. Did Phineas and Ferb come out in 2010? I think it did. I believe it came out in 2010. I can't remember. I for the life of me can't remember. What and Bonnie organized this whole manhunt assassination to kill Kim because of it. That is so very, very bad and very, very awkwardly handled. So, how I would rewrite this whole thing is I would simply, and I'm going with the assumption that you want to keep Bonnie the villain. That's fine. I think Bonnie as the villain can work. What I think should happen is, and I know this from experience, but like the same thing happens. Like Shigo offhandedly suggested a lawyer thing, Kim actually pulling it through, and Bonnie holding back for a little bit, but then she starts getting people to proxy because other people are still bullying. Because for a while, a lot of people are still bullying her. It's just other people. So you can have Bonnie kind of manipulating things. Like, okay, see, now she's kind of playing around the edges, sort of thing. Like she's still egging on Kim, but through proxies. So kind of have her be like kind of have her be like Draken in the fact that she's kind of just casually mentioned every chapter or so, but never actually fully interacted it with past that moment. Like, oh, they find out that Bonnie is like spreading rumors and stuff like that. So like trying to just basically testing the edges, and Bonnie starts getting gets more and more in trouble because all her stuff is like randomly piling up because now they're just finding out about her whole like popularity thing kind of slowly collapsing in up on herself. And then you can go after the first assassination attempt, she just disappears. Like you can say like, oh, Bonnie, because of the whole bullying thing, she got expelled or she got suspended. That would give the excuse of Bonnie not being anywhere in the second half of the story to kind of build up the whole twist reveal. So that way you can kind of edge in the fact it's like, okay, a clone Camille Leon, oh, it might be Draken. So that way when Bonnie is revealed as the villain, you can see like the little background clues. Like you can still even have her mentioned in the second half, but just more in the fact that like Bonnie's family start looking for her. Like they just like you can have a scene where like Bonnie's parents show up. It's like Bonnie went missing. We're trying to look for her. We don't know what happened to her. We're giving her a reward. It's like, all right, we'll be on the lookout and stuff like that. But more or less, she should just go persona non grata in the second story. So that way, in the second half, so that way, once the reveal happens, you can kind of look back on the story. It's like, oh yeah, all that makes sense now. But as it stands right now, it just comes off as just a random swerve of just it exists. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I would change. I would just simply have Bonnie just be a more peripheral figure, constantly in the story, a little bit more in the story. And other than that, and maybe fix up the grammars here and there. There's a couple grammar errors, but yeah, that should be Tangled Up in Green. I don't really have anything more to say, but yeah, this has been Dark Symphony 777, and